Hello, everyone. Today we are going to continue with what we were doing yesterday. I think today will actually be a little bit fun because we are creating entities, we're giving them some functionality, and we're also going to try to delete them. So I need to think of a system to spawn an entity, assign that entity a function like, rotating towards the mouse. And then if I maybe click the entity again, then I can delete it and I will populate my empty spots list, let's say, that we were, and see how everything works in the component system, and also creating and deleting the entities. It's using the same way, the same system between them. Easier if I just show it. Right. So both for components and entities, we are having the free slots array, and then we have a free slot count. So my goal is that this should be working today. And then we can add some functionality on top of that. So actually, let's go straight to the entity. And give it a hello, Lord Abgrund. Hope you're doing well. Entity functionality. And this, I guess, would take the state and probably the entity itself. Although I can't refer to itself unless I define it first. Okay, that works. So now we have a function pointer. Oh. It's a I32. Okay, like that. So we can try to assign that to the entity by creating this function. let's just grab this. This is the input, and then some input A. It's like a button A. I think it just assigned it to the left click. So we get the rotation. We get the rotation of ourselves. The entity gets its own rotation, and then we're rotating towards the mouse position. Because we're getting the hover Y, and this is like global sort of. This we don't need. And then in our add font, we can also do, or not add font, for our triangle, we assign this to be, although it has to be higher up right now. Now we are setting the function pointer to this functionality. And then in our update, we can do a for loop for count all the entities. So again, we're having this I32 entity count equals state entity active count plus entity slot, free slot count. Or no? Okay. We can loop over I, and then we say if E is not a null pointer, like E has to exist. That's the first condition. Then we can also do if E dot, if it has a function pointer, if that is set, then we call the functionality and it's just calling itself. So that's very simple. Now that should just work. Let's build it. Maybe not Emscripten actually. Win32. Okay, so everything works exactly as I would expect. Now we need to have a way of creating the entities. And actually we can do I32. Let's just assert here that the ret is equal to TFL success, just in case something happens. Mhm. So we are creating this I32 entity. We're just calling it something. We're not going to save this or anything, but it's exactly this. Just so that we can call it multiple times. So we need a state. And I guess that's it. So in our update, we can do if IP, was it? State. If our input dot A, so like we're clicking the button, then call this entity creates rotating triangle. Hmm. Okay, I clicked something, I don't know. Now I am scared that I am going to be holding down this and create a bunch of them, but the frame rate is pretty low. Maybe we can get away with it. Okay, cool. It did work. It's it's creating way too many of them. I can tell you that. I32 bool, or what am I saying? Bool, new triangle trigger equals false. This is just some bootstrapping code. So if this and that's equal to false, then we call the function. This is equal to true. And then later, if state IP, or rather not input A, so this is just something that so that we have to release the button in order to create more entities. So we're not like creating entities over and over. Now I do want to change this function quickly because I want to have a v3 position. And we put that there. And then we get the state IP hover X, actually v3 position equals this, Y 0. We don't even need that. So now we're creating triangles wherever we're clicking. And interestingly, they're not pointing towards the mouse, or maybe they are, but they're something is inverted about them. You can see they're rotating the wrong way. So that's cool. And you see how fast we made that, since like everything about the engine is pretty flexible. So this was very quick to set up. But why are they rotating in reverse. I'm not sure. Let's just do this. Now it's rotating towards it. You can see that the red corner is always pointing towards the mouse. Yeah. See, that's really cool. Very nice. So now we need to delete triangles. So we need to figure out a way to do that. We're having our entity create. Let's make entity destroy. So obviously we need an entity to destroy. Let's start with destroying the latest one. Or maybe the oldest one is better. Let's do IPB. Let's just check quickly because I need to make sure that I actually set this somewhere. This I set in my messages. Hover start state IPA plus plus. Maybe I need to rethink this a little bit. Let's close this and open the window. Here we are doing the L button down. Mouse move and L button up. So you can see if the button is held down while we're moving, then we're also updating the position and the number of inputs, sort of. Although I'm not really using that for anything at the moment. I just need a second button. We have the hover push message. But here I'm not really concerned about which button I'm pressing. Let's see. Message, command, and data. I have the command and I have the data. Do I add another data field? Or do I make these 16 bits? The good thing about this being a U64 is that it can be a pointer as well. But then I have to start manage the memory. I don't really want to do that for something as simple as this. Let's make it I16. Because this X param is already I16. This type int. The alternative would be to have a different message. Then I have to make a message for every single button. And I don't want to do that. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. The thing is, even if you're having a smaller integer, it's just nicer to be able to use the same type of integer everywhere and not have to micromanage the bit sizes. But in this case, I just kind of want to bake everything into like one single data U64 rather than have it point to some other thing. And there's absolutely no point in passing a pointer to something different. What is the oh, you mean this? That means that it's accessing a like it's the pointer accessor, I think. Like, is that what you call it? Member accessor? No, I don't know. I don't know what to call it. But basically, if I have a structure like here, I have input, and then I create my input. If I want to refer to it directly because it's existing, like this is existing on the stack in my context, then I use the dots and then I can access all of these directly, and it's like directly operating on the memory that is on the stack. However, if this is a pointer, then you use a different type of accessor. So there's no reason why it should look different. It's only like this is a reminder to the programmer that it's a pointer, that this is a pointer, and you're accessing the memory indirectly. You have to dereference this pointer in order to access some memory that exists somewhere else. So if you're really curious, you can look up the spec and get a more accurate answer, but that's all I can tell you from the point of view of using this accessor. That's how it's working. Anyway, now we can pack this into a U32. Is there a good site? Yes. Well, everyone is recommending reading the books by Ritchie and things like this. But if you want to go over the actual how it's actually working, you can go to this website. I never heard about this before, but I learned about it recently. I have to post it there. So here you can pick your poison, like let's say C11, and then you can read it as an HTML or PDF. Here's the contents. And this is not copyrighted. This is, or well, it has some kind of copyright, but like this is open and you can just read everything. And this is explaining everything about how the language is working and what the things are. But the problem is, of course, it's a spec, so it's not all that nice to read. The thing that people are recommending to read is like C Ritchie, Dennis Ritchie, C programming language. This one. This is what I see people recommend. I think this is like, okay, it just happened to be on my right here. I don't know if this is like free to just look. I don't know if this is copyrighted or not, but this you can read up. Yes, this is the entire spec, and no, I am not reading it. I haven't started using it yet, but if you would wonder like how does something work, then you can Control F, or you can go here, constants, and you can see here what it is. Usually, I am more like I'm using references for the standard library stuff. So if there is a function like here, sprintf s, then I Google that. I get the Microsoft is pretty good, or CPP reference is also pretty decent. And then this I do read, and you can find that here. And it's defining like exactly how it says how it should work, but I don't know if it's saying, it's describing. I don't know how useful this is specifically, but I know that people like it. So that's what I would recommend maybe. I did not read the book by Ritchie, no. I learned through Handmade Hero. So this is the way that I learned. I was following this and I was programming along, and somewhere around day 60, I learned enough that I could go on my own and do my own research. And then I joined a Discord where people are also talking about it. And from there, I'm just like searching whatever I need at the moment. Yeah, let's package these ones into a U32. So U32, hover equals, well, it's exactly the same thing. Let's just do the U32. This is shifted by 16. Oops. Do I have buttons? I don't know if I have buttons. Let's just call this 0 for now. Or rather, let's go to game. We have input somewhere. Ah, here we go. So all of these are associated with an offset. You mean that you should learn to read code? I would say writing code is pretty easy. Reading code is very difficult. Is there a way to do this easily? Maybe not. This is button. Let's just write it twice. We only have to write it once, but twice. We only have to write it twice, once. Left, right, up, down, start, back, A, B, C, X, Y. Volume up, down, full screen, and count. All right. All good. Yeah, like I was saying, reading code is very difficult. And that's like one of the nicer things about AI, I think. that you can just like kind of give it a bunch of code, and it will try to explain it to you or like sort of parse it to you. You can do that manually as well. And I wouldn't trust the AI too much, but that's the thing, that like humans are really bad at reading code. They're pretty good at writing it, but then you forget and you come back 6 months later, or it's someone else's code and you just can't figure it out. Um, but of course, reading code, you should learn the syntax and you should be able to figure out what it even means. So that is something different. But that's something as you write code, you will learn how things work. Do I use a RAD debugger? No, I am waiting for the Linux release. I'm using RemedyBG. Yeah, the mental model that you need to create to understand C, it's really pretty easy. It's much harder. Like for me, I'm struggling a lot to have a decent mental model of JavaScript or Python. Like they are made to be simpler in principle, but in practice for me it's harder because I'm struggling to create a mental model where I'm like I can see what's going on. In C, it's very like strict in the sense that what you write is how it works. So like it's a pretty simple mental model for me to follow, and then it's easier for me to follow the code. But I guess it depends on your goal and your interest. Like some people don't care about the implementation; they just care about the code as like this abstract thing, and that's fine. But code still has to run, and if you can write code to some mental model abstract machine, but the code still has to run on a machine. And if if you're writing your code in a way that isn't compatible with that, then you're going to have performance issues or stuttering or something like that. What is the thing after the bit shift? You mean this pipe? So like this is just a very concise way of writing. Take the number X, convert it into a U64. So let's open SpeechCrunch maybe. It's already open, okay. Can I clear this? Right. So here is our U32. It's some value. But if I would be shifting this to the right, you can see that it's becoming smaller and smaller because there's no bits down here that exists. And that's an issue. If I'm doing this and I'm shifting it upwards, then if you would ignore these, the same thing would happen. They would be shifting out of, hold on. They would be shifting out of scope, and you would end up with a wrong value, even 0 eventually. So the first thing I do is I have my U32, and I'm casting it to be up to like even though these are all zeros, I'm casting it to have the ability to be this large, right? Then I'm shifting it up by 32. So it's basically taking this bit and putting it there. So now instead of 800,000 or something in hex, I have this, which is exactly the same. It's just like shifted 32 bits. And that would be 0 if I didn't do this cast first. Then I take my Y value, and let's say my Y value is this bit. I'm doing exactly the same thing, but I'm not shifting it up. Now I'm adding them together like this, So now I have my complete value. It's two integers together, but they are not overlapping anywhere on any bits. So then you have one U64 with two values baked inside. And now I can use this U64. I can copy it into some other function as the input. And then I can deconstruct it. And you can see here in my game, I have a similar message loop. And what I'm doing is I'm taking my data. This is a U64. I'm shifting it down by 32 bits. So, I'm having this value. I'm shifting it down. Eventually, I get this. That's the like original X value that I had. Then I'm casting it down to U32 so that these are, so I don't have a bunch of zeros ahead of it, right? And then I'm using that to assign everything else. Is this done for performance reasons? Not really. I mean, it's just a way of packing my data in a way that I can send it conveniently on a like simple struct. So whenever I'm creating this message, I'm pushing it, and I am having a message count. So that means that I have an array with messages, and these messages are defined like this. So I just have an array of U64s. Now, if I had more data to pass, like let's say I push a message and it's an entire audio file, then I can't really compress that data to fit into this U64. Then I could make this to be a pointer to the data that is allocated somewhere else in the program. So then this U64 would be used as a pointer to that data rather than being the data itself. But if the data is just a couple of integers that both fit into a U64, then like why would I push it onto the stack somewhere, or not the stack, push it onto the heap somewhere, and then later I'm reading it from the heap and I am deallocating, destroying the data after I'm done using it. It's just a bunch of extra stuff that is completely not useful when all I need is just like a couple of two U16s. So if you cast it down, everything above this 30-second bit is just abandoned? Yes. That's why this is message data U64. I'm shifting that down and getting this value for X, but I still have the original value. Like here, it still has the X and Y value, but the X value is in the top bits. So this is done on a copy of the value. It's not the original value itself. So here I have the original value. I cast it to a U64. Then the X that is on the top bits is just completely discarded. And then I get the value Y. So it's basically like taking this value and just selecting this and doing that. So, looks a little less wizardry. Yeah, I can understand that. So anyway, we were in the window function. We are combining two U32s, but instead of having the X and Y be the U32s, we're creating one U32, which is the position of the mouse, and then the other U32 is the button. And the button for L button down would be button A. And actually, we can just have another function here. U32 get hover location. And that would be Alparam. Yeah. And you can notice that Windows is doing exactly the same thing. So Windows is giving you an L param. This is standing for a long parameter. This is a U64. So it's exactly the same, long pointer. Typically, this is a pointer to memory, but sometimes Windows just does exactly the same thing. That's why they have these macros, get x L param. I didn't create this. This is from Windows. So they are taking the low word and high word. These are the these are the U16s, or no, they are signed. They are the I16s of the position of the mouse on the screen. Now they are casting it to integer because integer is what most people are using. So I'm doing exactly the same thing but in reverse. Like I'm packing it down because this L param is a U16, U64. I mean, because typically this is a pointer. Here it's not because it's not necessary. So I can just get the L param and I do this this hover thing here. I guess I need the window size. The reason I need the window size is because on Windows typically the 0 in Y is at the top, and in my program I'm using 0 is at the bottom. So it's just about the coordinate system. The pipe just pushes one thing onto something else. Well, it doesn't push it onto it. So again, if let's say this is one U32 and this is another U32, I am having this, or actually, here is one byte, and here is another byte. When I'm doing the pipe, I'm ORing them together. So it takes this value, and it says if either one of them is 1, then the result is 1. So that's 1. And then here again. Here neither is 1, so they are both 0. So the result is also 0. And you can find the logical operators table. You can find images like this. So you just create these as a... These just have different symbols. So the not is an exclamation mark. The and is an ampersand. Or is a pipe. And then XOR is this caret. And then you just learn this table, how everything works. You have a not, a 0 becomes a 1, and a 1 becomes a 0. And both bits on both of them have to be set in order to get the result 1. Or it's any of them can be set, even both. And then XOR, they have to be exclusively set. Well, that's this is bitwise OR. This is logical OR. So logical OR takes the entire value and does the operation. Is it 0 or is it something? And the other one, is it 0 or something? And then it does a logical OR, and then the result is a 0 or 1. But a bitwise OR is a single pipe, and that's where it's doing exactly the same thing. It's just doing it for each bit one at a time. So it's the same thing with ampersand. You can do a bitwise and you can do logical and. Now I forget, because I've never done it. See, what do you call it? Bitwise XOR. Oh, so this is Bitwise. So what is the logical? Maybe there is none. The not equal serves its purpose. Anyway, let's finish this function. We get the window size y because we want to invert the dimension. Then we get the hover location and we return hover. And we can even give this inline. Now inline, as far as I understand, doesn't do very much. This is more of a suggestion to the compiler that if it makes sense to you, then you can copy paste the body of this function into the location. But it's not actually required to do so. So that's something that would be interesting to look up in the spec. That's something that I would like. Okay, I'm going to this link here in C11, let's say, HTML, inline. An inline definition of a function with external linkage. Okay, that doesn't mean much to me. Yeah, making a function an inline function suggests that calls to the function should be as fast as possible. The extent to which these suggestions are effective is implementation defined. Implementation might never perform. So it's just like, I don't know. It seems very like vague to me. I don't really understand it. You remember you talked to me about what I tried coding? No, I'm sorry. I forget. So we have our hover. So we get our message like this. And then, oh, I can't have. Maybe just data. Wait, are you the guy who were talking about the conjecture, Collat's conjecture? Yeah, so I did remember. Anyway, L button down, R button down, we're doing exactly the same, but now let's do button B. For mouse move, we don't get the button, but we are getting the hover in the same way. Let's do no button. Let's keep this. Then L button up. Oh, not hover end. Message hover move. This is important. Hover end. And of course the data. It's button A. And finally, our button up. Great. So now we have to rewrite our message processor here as well. Resize is different. So let's not touch that. The X is on the higher one. So we can do and we don't have to shift this at all. We just have to mask it. This is called a mask, and we are bitwise anding. If you remember this table from before, we are just saying anything that is set on the lower 16 bits we are keeping, and everything that is above the 16 bits we are discarding, which, as you know, is the X position stuff. We don't need to print anything. So now we do state IP buttons button. We can even call it maybe button ID. Or IDX. Because ID is different from index, I feel like. Button index. Same thing for button move. So we are having now our hover and index. I don't know if this makes sense to keep exactly like this in the future, but let's keep it. Never mind. Let's do it like this. And then we can just do plus plus. That's fine. And then hover end, it's exactly the same. We set the button count to 0. And yeah, that's it. So now we have 2 buttons because we're tracking L button and R button. That's the mouse. You found more small optimizations. That's nice. I am not great at optimizing things. I have tried it. It's very difficult. I would recommend you learn how to use Tracy. So this project, it's a profiler, and it's open source. It's free. You can download it. It runs on Windows. I think it runs on Linux too. Okay, maybe just Windows. You can just download that and you can hook it to your application. You can add some functions to track the performance, and then you can do some real cool optimizations. You can skip all even numbers. Okay, cool. So that's just like a logical thing. All right. Well, if it's always better to not calculate, the ultimate optimization is to not do it, right? If only there were finite numbers, then we could solve math forever. Luckily, in computers, there are finite numbers. There's only, well, sometimes people do calculations with 128-bit values, but realistically, U64 is all you're gonna need to deal with. So yeah, we have two buttons. We can go back to our updates. And then we say if B, then we just go from the bottom. So I32 count. What is the count? It's the entity count equal to state active plus free. So we check if this is set. Then we delete it. And if we can't find anything to destroy, then we just don't do anything. You went all way above U64. That's cool. I have never tried to program anything higher than U64. I know that there's libraries for having like an basically the same way that I'm having I32. I know that there are libraries for like I128, but I've never tried using them. But that's also the thing. So the game that I'm making, or the game maybe that I want to make, let's say, is let's say you have the sun. It's maybe the sun should be yellow. Yeah, this is the sun. And then you have a planet out here. It's going around the sun. Another planet out here. It's also going around the sun. And if you look at our solar system, the distance here is roughly a U64 centimeter, U64 I forget. This is like 10 to the 11 or something like this meters. And U64 max is this value. So we can count 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's delete all the dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So if you go meter by meter for a U64, you can simulate the entire solar system. Then, of course, you're telling me, well, 1 meter is pretty large. How would you have an astronaut in space moving 1 meter at a time? Well, obviously, you have a grid of meters, right? And then within this square meter or cube meter, you're having a float position. So whenever the float overflows from 0.9 to 1.1, you are increasing your integer meter position. Miniature scaling. I'm not sure what that means. It's just what people are doing very commonly is they are taking a float because realistically, you don't want to have a double for positions for a game engine because floats are just way faster. But then you're limiting yourself to like 10 to the power of like 6 or something like that. Or maybe even like 4. Because above that, you start getting issues with the float precision. So you can make an entire like huge open world that is like kilometers large, and you have one single, or you have a vector 3 float that is sufficient for everything. But you can't really go above that because then you start having issues where, you know, if you're having a 3D object with a bunch of vectors or vertexes, then they are all placed on a millimeter scale. And if you're losing precision at that millimeter scale, then objects are starting to look funny. So it doesn't really work. But you can combine both a large system and a float subsystem to get really large worlds. So that's kind of what I'm building towards. Can't you also technically use AVX for 256 values? You can use AVX for filling in a 256 bit what is it called again? Register. So you can fill a register with 256 bits, and you can do adds that add up to, and even multiplies, I think. I don't know if you can do divisions, but you can sort of do it, but I don't know if every operation is supported. Maybe you have to do some workarounds. Like, can you do a root of 256 bits? I don't think that exists on the on the chip, because every instruction needs to have a specific path on the chip. So they are only building things that people will actually use. Well, divisions by 2 is very specific. What if you want to divide by 2.3? Then you have like a bit bigger of an issue. And also, divisions of floats kind of require you to have a representation of a float in 256 bits. And that requires a standard that I don't think exists, at least not built in on the chip. So yeah, again, you can do a bunch of operations and you can probably build something that allows you to have a float representation of 256 bits that you can do multiply, divide, cube, and root. And that's sort of everything that you really need. Look, add, subtract, multiply, and root. I think that's all the things that you need. But I'm not a mathematician. It was a long time ago since I was studying math. Anyway, we want to destroy our entity. How do we do that? We can do state. State entities, right? This is the beginning of the array. And then I have something like array index. What was the function? I think I was making a macro for getting the integer offset, the index based on 2 pointers. And I was using that in main. Let's see if I can find that. You've never seen someone make a game engine from scratch? I'm still confused how people use C or C++ for systems programming. Well, if you can find people making engines online if you Google it. And some of them are quite interesting. Right? Hold on. I am sorry. The neighbor ordered something and then they weren't at home. And the delivery guy thought it was a brilliant idea to ring on our door instead. And our dogs go crazy whenever someone is ringing on the door. So, and don't tell me that they are badly behaved, because actually they are not barking if we are not at home. They are just trying to protect us. They don't know that sometimes it's things for them. Anyway, yeah. I like programming engines maybe more than programming games. I'm not really sure. I've never really finished a game, but I've used several engines, Unity, Unreal, Godot, and they all just didn't really feel right to me. And I was just, sort of stuck reading documentation and feeling like I want to change things all the time. Hello, Sukhinder Singh. What's up? Anyway, I just like it. So this is what I do for fun. Was there no offset of? If there isn't, I should make one. Array and then pointer. And the way we get it is taking the pointer divided by array divided by size of pointer, right? What am I doing? Well, today I am creating an entity system and I'm giving them some functionalities. I'm making this functionality with components and I'm trying to create and then later delete the entities. So right now you can see that I can create my entities and they are all looking towards the mouse when I'm holding it, but I haven't gotten to deleting them yet. So now at some point when I create enough entities, I think I can create like 1,000 of them. But anyway, at some point I run out of space and the program probably crashes. I don't want to press the mouse 1,000 times though. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I made that in like 10, 15 minutes. And it was very satisfying. After doing a lot of engine work and then seeing this work so well, it was just very nice. But I am making the engine from scratch, basically. I do have some dependencies because you simply do have to have dependencies. But I am making my own. I even made my own JSON parser for this. And yeah, you can look at the source for more information. I'm not using SDL. That's the thing. I am making it. The only things that I am using right now. Let's go here. Mastronaut dependencies. I'm using Glue because I'm using OpenGL because I'm targeting WebGL. I'm using handmade math because I was writing my own math library, but there's just too much boilerplate code that I didn't feel like writing, so I'm using that. I am using KB for shaping text. I'm using some STB things. So right now I'm using TrueType. I am planning to also use Vorbis probably. And that's it. That's it so far. And then I'm building using Clangd on Windows and Emscripten for browser. Does that not work? Binary expression. So can I not do that? I take the, well, it's the target divided by list. Or rather minus divided by size of this should be the size of the pointer. So 8. That works. So I think I just wrote this wrong. Where's the offset of you're not familiar with those libraries? Well, essentially, I am doing everything myself as far as is feasible. I am not writing my own compression algorithm, although I did write my own image compression. I'm not writing my own music compression, and I'm not writing my own math functions for matrix multiplications and sine and things like that. But pretty much everything else is my code. So yeah, we get the index based on this. And I guess we need to delete all the components. So for count, or rather, if the target has a mesh, then we delete the mesh. So you're only using a library to render with OpenGL and the rest is by myself? No. I am using a library that hooks into, it grabs the pointers for OpenGL for me on Windows. So you can look up what glue is. It's a cross-platform library that simplifies accessing OpenGL functions, but it's still just using OpenGL. There's nothing in between there. So we need to know the component array. And we need to know the component. This is more complicated than I was thinking. So when we are adding a component, we get the component array. We check the free slots. And then we add it to that slot if it exists. So do I need the slot? Let's see. I'm doing all of this in my head. So we need to do something similar. We need to get the offset of this. But the size is variable. So the way we get the size is doing something similar like I32 index equals the CA array taken away from the component. That's the number of bytes offset. And then we divide it by the array stride. So I can't really use this. I can't really use this macro because it's a little bit more complicated. Isn't the offset off macro still wrong? Just to get the index of an element isn't just the element. It depends. So if you have an I32 num array, oops, and let's make this 10. And then I grab the I32 star num equals num array 5. If I do this, then I just do the num minus array. I think that's how it works, because now you have the context of the type and size. But when you're in the function, the compiler doesn't know, or like, I think that I don't know, because they are the same type, right? This list and the target are the same type. So maybe you're right. It depends on when I lose the information about this being an array and I just get the pointer. If I lose that information and then I get the byte count, I have to test that out. But you are correct that normally you can get the index when you do the difference between two entries into an array, then you get the like number of the size, you get the index difference. Same thing, like if I'm saying num array plus 5, yeah, I could do this, and that's the same thing. So then that means that I can do num minus 5, and I get this back. So I just have to double check it. But before that, I need to figure out the way to destroy a component. We have the component, well, we have the component itself. So I guess maybe we can just do a mem set for that component. The value is 0. The size is CA stride. So we're just setting it to 0. CA dot We have to check if the index is the last one. My Clangd is recommending me symbols starting with std. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know why. I don't have that. This is C++ propaganda. Do you know how to get rid of it? I had to include, this is my game C file. I had to include standard IO because I needed sprintf for something. I didn't want to include sprintf, but I needed it for something specific, and I am planning to like replace it or something. But is it because of that I'm getting that? I don't know. So yeah, first we have to check if this index and of course to do check that this index is actually correct. We will do that in the debugger very soon. If the index is equal to the CA used count, -1, then we just delete it. And we do used count -1. Otherwise, we do, or actually this is probably in any case. Otherwise, we need to add it to the free slot count. Free slots is equals index. Like that. Return TFL success. We are destroying the target. Well, the list is in state entity meshes. And the mesh we want to destroy is there. Huh? Aha. Fine. Okay, that's enough to debug it, I think. Like, this is not going to work. It's probably going to crash. Well, let's just see if it crashes. Vertex array object in mesh isn't initialized. Yeah, makes sense. So let's debug it. So, and another window, entity destroy. We have our target. We have our list of things. Now let's actually do target minus list and see what that is. 0. Is that accurate? Probably accurate because we're going from the beginning. We are trying to delete the first entity. So that does make sense. So ignore that for now. We will get to that later. Right now we want to see if we are destroying this entity's mesh. So you can see we are having the mesh here. Apparently this mesh is invalid. It's not created, which is weird. I have to double check that. But the other things, so it's having a texture, it's having a good transform, anchor we haven't gotten to, offset is related to the anchor, we haven't gotten to that, and then the data is void star, so you can't see anything. It's not a font, or is it a font? It might be a font. I feel like this is wrong. This is correct. Like there's some other bug. Anyway, let's see what happens in our CA. We're having 4 meshes in our component array. Stride is 264. Free slot count is 0 because we haven't deleted anything. And then we have the array. So the CA array is a mesh array. So here we can see all of them. Although I don't think I can access it like this because I added some buffer in between each element. Oh well. But the first one is correct. Index 0 checks out. It's not the last entry. To address my statement at the beginning, you've seen some GitHub repo like build your own for X for making a game engine, but I never dare to open them because I feel unqualified to make something that complex. I have only learned a few data structures, plus I'm bad with competitive programming, though I'm right now trying to learn by reading documentation and not relying on AI. Yeah. The thing is, like, I have no idea how to make an engine. That's why I'm trying to make one. Like I know kind of what I want to make, but I'm, just take it step by step and, realize that you need to have something for audio, something for graphics, something for input, and then, maybe networking, probably not. And then you just like tackle those things all one by one. So you have your console, or you have your computer operating system. Like you pick one, Windows browser or Linux or something like that, and you see, how do I draw a triangle? I'm literally drawing triangles right now. And then from a triangle you can get to a rectangle, and from a rectangle with a texture you can make anything basically. So you just take it step by step and you go and you see what issues you run into. And yeah, AI is good for summarizing. It's good for it can be it's useful for replacing Google essentially. But I would not copy paste any code that you got from any LLM model right now. Unless it's something that you can literally just like see in like a function like this, or something you can see on one scroll like that, and you can parse everything and you can go over it. Even then, I would probably just like rewrite it line by line and that's what I've always been doing. When I was learning C++, when I was learning C, I was following like some YouTube tutorial, or not even tutorial, like someone else making another engine or something like that. And I didn't know what I was doing. So what I would be doing is I would type what he wrote. I would pause the video, look at the text, type it myself, open up the debugger and inspect what was happening and go through line by line. What does this function do? What is happening here? How is the data transformed? Look at the memory here. Like, okay, I have my state. How does it look like? I don't have state. Well, I have my CA. This is what it looks like. And, so on and so forth. Scroll here, try to parse it. What is this? I want to get the data preview. Oh, this is a decimal. This is like a pointer or something. And here is a float. Just going step by step, going through it. But the thing is, no one knows how to make anything until they have made it. And at the point that you have made it, it's not an interesting problem anymore. So if I knew how to make an engine, I would just sit down and write it for a couple of weeks, just literally type down the text and then be done with it. And then, but the problem is I don't know how to make an engine. So that's why I'm trying and learning and seeing how it goes. And if I would do another one in the future, I would have that experience and I would know the problems that I had and what I learned from it. And I would make a better engine, hopefully. And if you're making an engine using AI and copy pasting code that you found on GitHub or on Stack Overflow, then you're not really learning anything and you didn't actually grow or do anything worthwhile. You didn't improve, what I'm saying. So yeah, we are having our free slots. So we are putting the free slot 0 into our free slot count. So now we have one free slot. It's this one, 0. It's correct. It just happens to be 0, but never mind. We return success. And if we look at the target mesh, this is all zeros now. So that's good. What is this? My wife just sent me a funny picture of myself that I will be using for the thumbnail later. Okay, so that's fine. We have destroyed the mesh, so probably that's why we're crashing. So what we need to do to not crash is to do the same thing, memset target 0 size of entity. So if we do that, we should delete this rectangle, and we should not be crashing. And now I'm deleting this text, I hope. Or no? Nothing is being deleted right now. Nothing more is being deleted. Interesting. So let's see what happens. Huh? Oh no, I see what's going on. You think it's just your problem solving mindset that hasn't been developed for programming? You're kind of confused on where to start. Well, if it makes you feel better, the first time I was really learning how to program, I was like 24. So if you're any younger than 24, then you have a head start on when I started learning. So I wouldn't worry too much. Like they always say, if you really like something, it's never too late to start. But I wouldn't worry too much about not having the mindset for not having learned the mindset for programming. Because if you like it and you do it and you try it, you're gonna learn. It's more about it's like going to the gym. The first time you go, it feels hard. You you can't really do very much. You feel very bad afterwards because everything hurts you because you're not used to it. You get very tired very quickly. But then as you keep going, it gets easier and easier. But at the same time, it's never easy. Like every time you go to the gym, even if you have gone there every day for the past year, the next day it's still hard. You have to keep going and you have to keep pushing yourself, otherwise you're not learning anything. So if again, I have shown this before, like today, but if you don't know where to start, you can do what I did and you can start here. Just start watching this, watch one video per day, and follow along. Or, you know, shout outs to myself. I am not super, I am not focusing on teaching. So that's why I'm saying like maybe check this out first, because this is focused on teaching you how to start and where to begin. I think you can find something similar on Linux if that's what you want. But you can go to this playlist. I think. How do I go there? Go to my playlist and just start from day one. And like, if you want, right? Just find something to follow along and go from there. What I would not recommend you do is most if you just search for like how to make game and you find a tutorial like how to make a Unreal platformer or something like that. I feel like those are very often targeted towards not understanding the code, but rather a, a very specific way of doing something. You're curious about making an engine. I think that the engine making part is the most fun. Obviously, if you hate working with APIs or OS systems, then maybe it's not as fun. So like if you're super interested into, you want to just make a game, then just use an engine. Like sure. But you need to find a tutorial or some kind of video series or just read the documentation, right? And practice to find your way forward. Like find something that tries to explain why are you doing this or like how do you do it, not this is what you do. Because someone telling you what to do, they they are showing you their way of doing it, but you need to find something that shows you how to find the way of finding your own way of doing it. Because you it's like giving a man a fish and teaching a man how to fish. Like, this is the difference. You don't want someone showing you this is their way of making a platformer, and then you have you only know how to make a platformer that is structured in the same way that they did it. You want someone who is teaching you how to make the thing that you want to make. And that's why I like Handmade Hero, and that's also what I'm trying to do. But yeah. So I wish you good luck on that. Now, we are trying to delete every frame. The reason it's triggering every frame is because it's still holding down the button, because the debugger here, when I clicked on the right click, it interrupted the Windows process. And then I'm never triggering the message in Windows for releasing the button. So now just every frame it's trying to delete something. But the funny thing is that we are not deleting anything, I think, because these things are all still there. So we're grabbing the entities. What is the target? This cannot be a null pointer, and it's not. But everything in it is 0. So that's interesting. So our entity destroy, this function has to be wrong. We're having 11 entities. Oops. Still 11 entities. We're grabbing this one. It exists. Ah. I see what's going on. So rather than reading if this is a pointer, this is kind of dumb. We need to read if the EID is valid. So I'm reserving EID 0 as being the null entity. If the EID, entity ID, is 0, then it's uninitialized, it doesn't exist. So then we are grabbing the second entity. Right click, oops. Aha. And notice that what happened there was I didn't have this bool. I have my like new triangle trigger, so that every time I'm pressing the button, like if I am disabling this, let's make this true and make this true. Now, as long as I'm holding down the button, it's going to create triangles, I think. It's not creating anything. Yeah. Now I can kind of draw triangles, as you can see. And I'm drawing one triangle per frame. Am I streaming for rubber ducking? No. I'm streaming to promote myself and promote the project that I'm making. At some point I'm gonna run out. There's only like 1,000 in here. You can see here. Component add. Yeah. Something was running out of entities or components. I am just streaming to promote myself, because if I'm programming alone in my room for nobody and uploading it, like no one is gonna find my code. And also I think it's fun to talk about. So why not share it? So yeah, the problem I had was that in the same way that I was just drawing entities until I ran out, if I'm holding, even if I'm clicking, I can't release the button fast enough that it's not reaching the second entity to delete. And the issue was that I have this check for the second entities, and then that becomes a null pointer, and it doesn't like that. So let's delete this. And also let's make this false again. And delete trigger. You found me randomly. Yeah, I noticed that if I'm consistent, YouTube promotes me pretty well. Twitch actually hates me, I think. Hello? I am not deleting anything. So I delete the cube or rectangle. And now I try to delete another thing. Nothing is happening. So I think my delete trigger is just true. Three. I think my messages are just bad. Hover and R button up. Ah, here we go. You found me through the Twitch category, right? I think I have looked at the Twitch category for software development, and I was always at the very bottom. And that's kind of an issue when there's so few people watching it to begin with. Okay, now it should work. So delete the cube, delete the text, and then each triangle. And if we keep deleting, we're going to... Okay, so we can't find something to delete. Now, we still have an issue because we're only deleting the mesh component, but we need to delete everything that the entity has. And I'm still not very confident that this is bug-free. Yeah, I guess we'll see. So we can destroy that component. Another thing is the position. The position can go before entity positions, target position. Hello, RT U Super. Target functionality should also be, it doesn't have to be an if actually. We can just set this to 0. EID. Well, actually, those I don't have to set manually because they are set to 0 from this. Target. And that's it. Now we have to add the open slot to our entity slots. Free if. So exactly the same thing as here. But a little bit different. So if the index is the same as the state free slot, no, actually used count, entity active count. And could that be an issue? It could be an issue. Because I could have less active and more free slots, and then this would be somewhere in the middle. So again, we're doing the entity count is combination of these. Free slot count. And now if the index is at the very end of this, then we can just do this. So state free slot count minus minus. Otherwise, free slots. And then we double check that the index is completely correct. It still amazes you how people like me can write C code and C++. Well, I mean, it's just about doing something. Like, I am amazed when someone can sit down at a piano and just sort of make a song, right? Like, I know that there is they have the theory of, they have music theory to combine chords, and then they know what scales to play on top of the chords, and then they just kind of do it, and they have practiced it for 1,000 hours, so they just know how to do it well. Like, even like immediately someone can look at just the song chords, and then they could just like improvise on top of that. Like, that's cool to me. And like, I understand how it works, and I understand that it's not a crazy skill for someone to develop, but it's still very impressive. But it's exactly the same thing. Here, I know enough about computers, and I know how the language works to the point where I can make something useful. And the thing I really like about C and C++ is that it gives me complete freedom. The freedom with C is that it runs everywhere, and I can do pretty much anything with it. And then the freedom with C++ is that I am free to use almost any function that anyone has ever thought of. Like, for better or worse, it has every feature basically of any programming language that you can think of. So you have the freedom of doing anything. Yeah. So let's see how this is working. let's create some things and then start deleting them. And let's create some more. Oh, we have a bug for sure. You see that? When I start filling out the empty slots again, it works like normal. But until I do that, I am replacing something. So let's see how that is working. We are trying to destroy something. The entity we are trying to destroy is 0. Because I was clicking there. I want to destroy something different. So I have to click here so I don't trigger that. Now now we're trying to destroy the third entry. Remember, I starts at 0. So we're destroying the position. That becomes 0. Mesh becomes 0. And now let's take a quick look here. State. Positions. We are having 3 free slots. 0, 1, and 2. Looks good. Same for meshes. 0, 1, and 2. In C, a pointer. Hold on. Why not read docs if struggling to make full stack apps? Is that a reply to someone else? Ah, okay. In C, a pointer stores a memory address, and dereferencing a pointer just yields the value at that address. Well, here is memory in a computer. It starts from 0, though 0 is usually reserved for good reasons. And then it just increases. Like, these are all offsets from 0. So you have 0, the 0th byte, first byte, second byte, and so on. And then you have, this becomes an address, and this is a U64 value. So it has 64 bits. It goes up to like 18 trillion or something like that. So it's just a count of how many bytes from the 0 is your data located. And all of these, this is the RAM on your computer. Or I guess it could also be the hard drive or SSD. But it's some memory, physical memory on your computer. Of course, there's on some OSs, there's abstractions. Like on Windows, you're having virtual memory addresses. So this is one continuous block of memory. But in the physical hardware, it might not actually be contiguous. Anyway, it's just an offset into a table. And then whatever, you get the pointer 200. So the computer is like scrolling through this list and seeing, on offset 200, you have something there. Now we should go somewhere we have actually addressed something. So this is the kind of numbers you usually get, like 200 million hex or whatever. So it gets this like 0.48. It goes to this value, and it reads the thing and gives you back a copy of this data. Now, if you can modify something at this pointer, so you can give it the instruction for the value at this offset, add 1. And that also works. And then it takes this value, makes a copy into the register, adds 1 to it, and copies it back into this memory array, basically. So yeah, what is going on here? We are getting the index. This index is wrong, and that's probably why we were having this issue. So I think some user, someone said earlier that our offset of is completely wrong. And I think that is true. We can make this generic such that we say U64 and U64. That should fix it. I'm not entirely convinced I want to do that. Let's disable the breakpoint, create some stuff, delete. And then is this the third or fourth? Index 8. That's not correct. So what is actually going on here? We're having the list. It's having this value. We're having target. It's having that value. I am doing use uint64t target minus list. That gives me 64 bytes. So I take that result divided by size of targets for some reason that doesn't work. So this is the correct value. So why is this? I think I am, I think I'm adding another buffer and I forget. So again, if we go to the entity, where are we creating entities? Here, entity. So this is why it's not working. I am allocating my entities on my arena with the size of entity times max count. But I think, actually, no, that should be working. What am I doing wrong? What are you guys talking about? OpenGL, put it on screen, you use window lib. For example, STL, okay. So why is this not working? The size of entity, I have to do that. That's the reason why it's. I think I'm just wrong. Like you see, this is working, but then it's not a pointer anymore because my array is an array of entities. It's not an array of pointers. So never mind. Like this is. This is not a good way of doing this. We need to fix this. Do something different. But we can't use that here. We will simply do target minus list. And then we get the index, and then we can use that. And notice that it does work here because we're having the stride, and I don't have to calculate a specific entity. Like I already have this. I don't have to give the specific entity or the specific struct. So let's see if that fixed our bug. I think it should be. We are deleting some stuff. Yeah, and then we're adding, and now we're deleting again, and we can add more, and we can delete and add and delete and add and delete. And that looks good to me. And at some point, actually, no. So we have added and deleted a bunch of things. So let's take a look how this looks now. State. We are having 45 active entities. That is incorrect. So we forget to remove active entities. One thing. We have 32 free slots. That's probably because of the active one. I have never tried Rust. Maybe that's a future project, but it seems just like to be C++ with more restrictions. Oh, you see that? I'm overwriting. It's the same bug as before. Is this using ECS? I am making my own ECS. Yes. So the way it's working is I am having my entity struct, and the entity right now, it's having my like a position pointer and a mesh pointer, and you know, it could have more pointers in the future. And if the pointer is set, it's using position or mesh or something like that. Now, I do think mesh does use position, so it is asserting that position exists if the mesh exists, but that's, you know, beside the point. And then what I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to delete components. So this is one component and this is another component, and I am tracking my components with a component array. Now, each component is a different size. So I have to have a void pointer here if I don't want to have a specific struct for each individual component that I want to track, which would be an option, but I don't really want to do that. Copy paste the code. Sometimes it is the right option because you can generate the code for you, but that's not what I want to do. So this is void array. I have to set the stride, and then I create this on the memory stack, and every time I'm creating a component, I add it to my array here. And what I'm trying to do now is when I'm freeing something, first off, I'm writing the slot to be zeroed out, but also I'm adding the free slot to my free slot array, so that if I am trying to add something later, then I'm reusing that slot. So then I am not just, you know, running out of memory without running out of without running out of slots. I am not going above my maximum. Yeah. it's kind of a like simplified entity component system, but it's just my own design. I'm trying it out. Now we are deleting things. Let's trigger that bug. So we are deleting, and now when I'm creating my entity create, let me check something. What is the roadmap? The roadmap is, well, I don't really have one. My roadmap is I'm working on creating and destroying entities right now. I have previously worked on text shaping, so that's why you saw the text over there before. And what I'm working on next is an asset packager, so that I can compress 3D models, and I can put that into one file, and I can include that as a binary, and then I can read it from the program, and I can decompress it and load it and use it. Once that's done, I need to use audio. After that, probably multi-threading, possibly. I will see. The program doesn't need multi-threading, but I think it would be interesting to try to utilize. And then finally, I will like finish the game. And I hope it will not take too many more weeks. The goal of the project is to make a functional, simple engine that I can make simple projects in for Windows, Linux. Oh, yeah. When I get to the game part, I will also finish the Linux port. I haven't really started that because I've never made something for Linux before. This is running on Windows and the browser right now, but I want Linux as well. But we will get to that when we get to it. But I don't have a stated roadmap, and I don't have hard deadlines right now, because this is my first fully fledged engine, so I kind of want to take my time just to try to get it right while I'm gaining the experience. Yeah, we are creating. We are having our EID is 7. That's fine. We need to get a free slot. There are free slots. Let's take a look in here. So you can see here we are having 3 entities currently. They start on 4. If we look at state, well, actually, let's just look like this. We're having 4 free slots, 0, 1, 2, 3. And those slots are 0, 1, 2, and 3. That's all good. How did I figure out what functionality my engine needs in order to be complete, as well as data structures? Well, that's the beauty of it. I don't. I have worked on like hobby engines before, So I am competent. Like I have made engines that do something very specific before. You know, display animated 3D models, play audio, things like that. Also, networking. I tried one time. So I have made toy engines before. This is like my first time trying to tie everything together into one coherent thing where I can use everything that I have learned to make one engine to make. I don't want to say any game, but like to make the game that I want to make. And again, I am not trying to invent GTA 6 here. I am trying to have something with simple shading, simple texturing, simple lighting, 2D objects for UI, 3D models with bone animations, and that's it. So I'm trying to limit the scope of the game to something rather simple, but then the interesting thing is the engine and how to make that work in the way that in the way I'm exploring the way that I would design an engine, basically. So I am figuring things out as I go. I have a lot of experience, and I also have some resources that I have watched over the years to learn from. But otherwise, I am learning as I go. Right. These are all correct. So we are grabbing the slot 3. The third thing here, so that is correct. Although this should be probably zeroed out. I don't want it to keep the 3 there. And then we're grabbing that slot. This is the entity now. So what have we forgotten to do? We have forgotten to do something. So we have our free slots count 3. And that exists now. And we have our active count. Oh, the active count is still 3. So probably that's why. Entity creates. So yeah, the active count needs to go up even when we're grabbing a free slot. So maybe no, this code is fine. No need to overthink it. Okay, interesting. So now we're deleting the latest object because that just happens to be earlier in the list. So again, if we are creating some things here, here are our entities. And I'm doing a very, very simple thing right now. I am just starting from 0 and finding the first entity in the list. And as you can see, because we are going backwards in our deleted entities, we have deleted entities. So now we are having open slots and they're going backwards. So you can see here 23, 24, 5, 6. and that's the latest one. And if we look at state, we should have exactly one free slot at this index right there, which is correct. But what's happening is that I'm grabbing the earliest one, which just happens to be the last one created. So there's no bug there. That's just the way that I'm grabbing, the way that I'm deleting the entities right now. So that is exactly what I wanted to achieve today. We are having a function pointer assigned that gives it some functionality. And you can see that all these triangles are looking at my mouse when I'm moving it around. I can delete entities and I can create more. And when they are deleted, hopefully, everything else is deleted with them. And if I try to delete more than I have, nothing is crashing. That's really nice. So let's just quickly build for Emscripten. Check that out. And I think that's it for, I think I'm done for the day after that. Here is our game running in Firefox. Oh, interesting. So actually, what I forget to do is, again, I'm having my Windows layer. Obviously, that's not running in Emscripten. That is running in Wasm window. So I am doing something completely different here than what I was doing, than what I changed my code to in here. So I guess maybe we should do the same. Get hover location. Or I don't really want to deal with this right now. We can do that another day. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. That's it for today. I will push the source so you can take a look at it if you want. As always, it's on GitLab. It's right here. It is linked on my website. You can go there and you will find it. Everything is public. So yeah, thank you very much for watching and following. Yeah.